think so. I think it's a general apathy when things are good enough, and our own little shell, our own little aura is not pierced by the corruption, and we feel rather powerless to combat it.
I think you're right. You know, there was an adage that in my day, organized crime, which ran the cities, the big cities in the East, used to steal 1 out of 3 municipal dollars through contracts and grants. It was well known they stole about 30% of the money of the tax base. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what the percentage is today in cities like San Francisco? They're stealing 7 out of $5. They're printing the money. In other words, it's one thing for crime to steal a third of the money. It's another thing for them to steal eight out of the 6. In other words, they're printing the money they're stealing now. They're so corrupt and so greedy. In other words, there's an end to it all. When does it all come down? In other words, the criminals stole 1 out of 3 municipal dollars with contracts, grants, bid rigging. They took about 30% of the money they stole out of a city. But they weren't so greedy that they destroyed the city. The greed level is so great right now because of the corruption in Congress that they're stealing 6 out of $4. They're printing the money they're not stealing. That's how corrupt this government has become, according to people who've told me they know what's going on. And I think eventually this comes to an end. Actually, fiscally, we're no better off than Greece. And Greece is the domino that if Greece falls, by the way, it could tear down the entire EU and tear down the entire world banking system. Do you know that? The lazy Greeks want the whole world to keep paying them their pensions and their trips. I love that one. They're living on everyone else's money in Europe. The Greeks have been living off the Germans' money. The Germans are industrious and work hard, and the Greeks sit around doing nothing. So the country is about to collapse. So what do? They elect a demagogue like Obama, a demagogue like de Blasio, who promises them, I won't cut pensions, I won't cut benefits, I won't cut public sector jobs because I'm a man of the people. He's an overt communist like Obama and like de Blasio. They don't call themselves communists here. Here they call themselves progressives. But the communists are demagogues, and they say, you know what? I'm not cutting a dime of the pensions. So Greece is saying, go to hell to Europe. We're not paying you. And what do you think is going to happen? If Europe makes them default on the debt, tell me who loses. Well, everyone loses because they're going to leave the EU. They're going to go back to the Greek currency, the drachma. It could collapse the entire value of the euro. And so Europe is shaking in their boots right now because their weak sister Greece is liable to bring the entire system down in a crashing heap. And what's interesting to me is that Western civilization began with Greece and it's liable to end with Greece. Just an interesting little observation how demagoguery works. And now I want to read something to you. One of the kids who competed for the $100,000 in prizes of the Michael Savage Scholarship Fund. It's been quite a very demanding thing reading these essays, and I have one person really doing it, and I get some of them, then we're going to judge them. I'm going to read you. It's 500 words. I don't know who wrote this. Remember who you're listening to now. This is not I don't know, 20 years old, 18, I don't know. Listen to this. It'll give you hope. Here's what he or she wrote. Caught in an age riddled with constant distraction and political vexation, the American populace has begun to forget what magnificent opportunities its country nurtures. For centuries, the United States has been a safe haven for countless souls seeking a better life, and still remains a solid foundation for those in pursuit of their aspirations. Despite being comprised of a variety of different peoples, the American Republic has retained an intangible unity in adversity. Perhaps credit is due rather to the American citizen himself, whose very nature ultimately determines his nation's success. That is to say, an American can be summarized as a vociferous individual unwavering in principle, a modest exemplar with innate ambition and selflessness, and the champion of our cultural heritage and its distinctive qualities. Yet there has never been a greater need for fearless orators and rhetoricians in our time. There has never been a greater necessity for those willing to defend concrete American freedoms. In public school, I encountered numerous history teachers bent on expressing their personal revulsion for America. With a haughty grin, one of them would lecture to such an intimidating extent that even the most gregarious students seemed taciturn. After weeks of having witnessed the indoctrination of the liberal ideology, resistance was imperative. So without warning one day, I questioned a radical claim the instructor made, and I refuted his argument. Ultimately, my teacher was unable to isolate me, since at every opportunity I upheld my convictions. Thus, I discovered the potency of a steadfast delivery, and the futility of being a passive bystander in America. You understand? A college student wrote this for my scholarship contest. There's one more page, and I'm going to read it to you. Analogously, part of living in an individualistic society is possessing initiative in one's labor. Work ethic and discipline are integral in this country, both economically and ethically. And he goes on, or she goes on, and it says, all of this derives from a moral Judeo-Christian foundation. Even still, America's unmistakable virtues are a mere portion of its appeal. Nowhere else in the world has an unprecedented quantity of people flocked purely in search of a fair, just, and unrestricted life. Prior to World War I, aliens had to conform to American culture to succeed, which in turn had maintained its fundamental characteristics. Nowadays, to a certain degree, the converse is true. Therefore, proudly professing our heritage and being unafraid to express our language and creed is critical in preserving the traditional American way of life. Overall, the American patriot is the thread that entwines vigilance, resilience, and wisdom, which would otherwise untether. Though conditions may seem unfavorable for our country at this point in time, we must have unrelenting faith. Above all else, there has never been such great promise as with the people of the United States. For once in the world, a nation does not define its For once in the world, a nation does not define its inhabitants, ingrained with integrity, benevolence, purpose, strength, and sacred liberty. We Americans define our nation. Is that amazing? That's written by a college student, no doubt someone who needs money, who has entered the Michael Savage Scholarship Fund to be one of the prize winners. Have hope. They're all not crazy and bad. I'll be right back.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
My Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com, the only company I trust to protect my wealth with gold and silver. Call 800-BUICOIN.
It may take a constitutional amendment to once and for all say no unaccountable corporate billionaire money flowing into our political system. We need to get back to one person, one vote, and try to figure out how best to manage that in the future.
How could she get away with that? You say, well, how could you do it with a straight face? Because she's a skilled liar. That's a given. But the headlines are the opposite. This is a woman talking about billionaire money when she lives off billionaire money. Headline, New York Post, quid pro quo. Bill cashed in when Hill was O's cabinet. Big bucks came from foreign interests. Bill Clinton raked in $48 million in speeches while his wife was Secretary of State. Listen to this. While she used her clout to help foreign donors to the Family Foundation, a book says. How in the world can this woman run for office when she, of all of them, stinks to high heaven? In other words, you know that there's corruption in the system. You know they're all raking off money. I told you that. Did you know? You take any candidate, I don't care who it is, Republican or a Democrat, they're all feathering their own nest, every last one of them. Even if they know they can't win, they're running because their family and friends are going to become millionaires off the fundraising. Do you understand that? Do you understand how the system is set up and rigged? Well, I'll tell you more about it as the week goes on. None of them are above any of this. Be clear on that. Don't assume that the guys on the Republican side wear the white hats. Please.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage. And now, America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation, home of unprotected talk, borders, language, culture. And here he is, Michael Savage.
Now it's not enough just to tread water. We need to get ahead and stay ahead. And people need to feel that work is being rewarded, that the deck is not stacked in favor of those at the top, that they too have a chance to go as far as their hard work and their aspiration will take them.
Hillary has hit a record low. She's at the lowest point in her entire political career. If even the pro-Hillary New York Post is running a headline showing her and her husband throwing dollars in the air with the headline quid pro quo, showing the kind of big dollars they made from foreign interests through influence peddling, How can this woman get up in the morning and give speeches like this, knocking hedge fund manager pay? Did you hear that one? Listen to the next one in clip 20. Listen to this. Just listen. Listen to this.
Do everything I can to support goods and real services and take a hard look at what is now being done in the trading world, which is just trading for the sake of trading. And, it's just wrong that, a hedge fund manager pays a lower tax rate than a nurse or a trucker or an assembly worker here at Whitney Brothers.
Why doesn't she pay taxes on the money that their foundation is getting if they're so concerned about not enough taxes coming in? I mean, they're getting big bucks from foreign interests, according to this book, and it's all tax-free. It's all tax-free, so pay money on it, that's all, and you can pay for the immigrants, and that's it. Of the 13 Clinton speeches that fetched $500,000 or more, only 2 occurred during the years his wife was not Secretary of State. Hillbillies' mega bucks tied to foreign donors, says a new book. The power couple's combined net worth is $100 to $200 million. The richest living ex-president and one of the 10 wealthiest ever. It doesn't bother you? It should. The hypocrisy is what should bother you. It's not that she's rich and that they steered money to each other. Look into Dianne Feinstein. You may find things that are interesting as well. That's all. I'm not saying she did anything wrong. I'm sure it's all perfectly legal. They wrote the laws, so I'm sure it's legal. In other words, if you're a senator, you write the laws, so whatever you do is legal. That's how it works. Then you never get caught. Then they tell you that they're for the poor. Okay, whatever. That's the game. So here we go. We're rolling in like pigs in the sty. 855-407-2882 is the open line to Michael Savage on Unprotected Talk this Tuesday already. Tuesday. If it's Tuesday, it must be Belgium. Only I'm not in Belgium. I'm not eating chocolate. No, I'm not in Belgium. Sitting here in a rainstorm is where I am. Let's go to WABC in New York City. Jeff, go ahead, please. You're on the Savage. Wait, I almost hit the wrong button. I have to put my glasses on. Jeff, welcome to the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please. No, gone. I love it. I'm getting like a blank job. This is a day that'll live in infamy. I blew my voice out screaming and yelling a minute before the show started. All day long, the systems were connected. Everything was running. I was perfect. I was calm, cool. I was collected. I was like a pilot in a clean suit, a nice shirt. There was no sweat on the collar. I was ready to fly. I get into the cockpit. Just as I'm taking off, all the systems failed. Can you imagine what I have to do for a living? Now I'm hitting buttons for callers, and they're not there. Let's try another one. Line 9. David on line 9. Go ahead, please. What's on your mind?
Well, I'll tell you what's on my mind. First off, thank you for having me. I enjoy your show. I listen to it every chance I get. My father and I, we spend a lot of time together, and I'm lucky to have him. He's 85, so we often speak of what's it going to take. I mean, this is a question. What is it going to take for the American public to understand that from a Democratic side of Democratic point of view, Hillary's no good? I don't understand I don't understand why the party doesn't just jettison her.
I mean, there are other Democrats, let's say, that I wouldn't vote for any of them, but they're not as rotten as this.
What is it going to take?
I don't know. Look, we all know that Rupert Murdoch is in the Hillary camp. It's well known in the political world. He's in there. That's why I'm not allowed on the Fox News channel. Ailes hates me. Murdoch hates me. They shouldn't, but they do. It's because I challenge Fox News, so they don't like my independence. They don't like the fact that I broke free of the Rush Limbaugh cartel and got where I am without them. Fine, that's the way the world works. They're in Hillary's camp, and yet the headline is quid pro dough, and it shows Bill and Hillary rolling in the dough. I think even Murdoch has had enough of her.
Well, like you said earlier, I don't have a problem that she has money. What I have a problem with is her total disdain for the American people when she gets on TV or does a press conference or whatever it is she's doing, and we can talk about emails. How many of us could get away with that? Let's say we don't have any political cover. We're not connected. We're just the average. We go to work, and we tell our boss, hey, I'm sorry, the 2,000 emails I did last year, 60% of those are personal. How long do you think I'd have my job?
Well, the question is this. Now that we know about the dough that was flowing in and her steering contracts and grants or whatever they were doing for influence peddling, you want to put it that way, some are calling it bribery, don't you assume some of those 30,000 emails would be indictable, would make her indictable?
Absolutely. But we're never going to see them because while Congress was
Wait, if NSA is able to pick up the toilet paper we put in our hand and tell us how much toilet paper we used last year,